Okay, how's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Okay, so in this episode, I want to try to say something about Carl Jung and his essay called "The Stages of Life," written in 1931, I think. So in it, he talks about there being four stages to life. They are childhood, youth, middle age, and old age. Now, although this essay is packed with insight at each stage, in this episode, I just want to talk a little bit about middle age. Okay, well, so according to Jung, the midlife stage happens around 40 years old. After all, that is about the midway point of the average life. This is, as Jung says, when the sun reaches its highest point, but then begins to make its descent. Now, this is often a difficult time for people. It's what's known as the midlife crisis, of course. Something, by the way, that Jung was one of the very first psychological thinkers to discern and to discuss in some detail. You see, for Jung, part of the problem attendant on midlife transition is that what most of us don't realize, or just don't want to accept, is that there are activities and goals that are good to pursue in the mornings of our lives, but not so much in the afternoon. The second half of life, in other words, calls for a different set of priorities than the first half does. As Ecclesiastes tells us, for everything there is a season. Or as Jung himself says, we simply cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning. So while the first half of life involves a lot of social activity and ego building and the pursuit of professional goals, these are not the sorts of things that should dominate in the sunset period of life. No, what should take priority here are things like a concern for family or for future generations, and more spiritual and less materialistic and ego-driven goals. Speaking of this idea that for everything there is a season, you see, for Jung, there is something just plain inappropriate about trying to live like an eternal adolescent when you're older. It's a delusion to think that the second half of life should be governed by the principles of the first. But the sad, lamentable truth is this. It's that in our culture, the older spend the second half of their life competing with the young. As Jung says, the father wants to be the brother of his sons, and the mother wants to be the sister of her daughter. But however hard the older try, it's hard to get around the plain fact that what was true in the morning of their lives will at its evening have become a lie. Okay, well, another reason Jung gives for the typical midlife crisis is this. It's that many of us, by the time we turn 40 or so, we have mistaken our accomplishments with our personality or with our character. Okay, so what does that mean exactly? Well, what he means is that so many nearing midlife identify themselves with the social position that they've won and with the achievements that they've accrued, which of course society rewards. And so they think that everything is perfect and complete with themselves, and that as they step into the second half of their lives, they can just cling to and proceed with things as they have been. And so they think that the second half of their life is going to be an entirely settled and absolutely perfect state. But what most people tend not to understand, though, says Jung, is that societal position and accomplishment comes at the cost of the diminution of personality. So really, most people stepping over into midlife, what they don't realize is that they're proceeding without the kind of developed character that they should be concentrating on and actually require in the afternoon of their life. what they should understand is that they need to recenter their life around new values. Values having to do with character and with spirituality and with culture. Ones that have been neglected because of the earlier focus on extroverted and materialistic interests and pursuits. Pursuits that were necessary then, but less so now. Now is the time to direct attention to and begin to cultivate one's inner being, so to speak. As Jung says, the afternoon of life is just as full of meaning as the morning. Only its meaning and its purpose are different. Actually, it's interesting. Given the prevalence of the midlife crisis, this difficulty to adapt to a new stage and to new values, Jung says that maybe it's a good idea to start up a college curriculum for 40-year-olds, where the goal of the course would be to help them to learn how to grow old fully and gracefully. I mean, it sounds like a good idea, right? After all, we do it for young adults at college to prepare them for the world. So why not for middle-aged people who are about to embark on the second half of their life with all of its changes and all of its unknown demands, but also all of its potentialities? Bye for now.